Urban legends and the true crimes behind them. Urban legends have a way of tapping into our deepest fears. They're passed along at sleepovers, around campfires, or on late-night drives. Eerie tales of hook-handed killers, tainted Halloween candy, or unseen intruders lurking in the dark. While many of these stories are pure fiction, some have unsettling parallels in real life. Below is a list of urban legends that were later discovered to be based on, or eerily similar to, actual true crime cases. Each entry details the legend and the real event that inspired it, showing that sometimes truth is scarier than fiction. Cropsy, the boogeyman of Staten Island. The legend: for decades, kids on Staten Island whispered about Cropsy, a boogeyman said to haunt the abandoned grounds of a local mental institution. In the tale, Cropsy lived in the woods and snatched children who wandered too far from home, sometimes described as a killer wielding an axe or hook. The truth: in the 1980s, Staten Island's Cropsy legend proved to have a basis in a very real criminal case. Andre Rand, a drifter and one-time employee at the defunct Willowbrook State School, was accused of abducting multiple children in the 1970s. In 1987, Rand stood trial and was convicted for the kidnapping of a 12-year-old girl. He's suspected in several other child disappearances around Staten Island during that era. While Rand denies murdering anyone, the fear he instilled in the community was real, and it's easy to see how stories of a child-snatching monster took root. The Cropsy urban legend so closely mirrored Rand's crimes that it became the subject of a popular true crime documentary, blurring the line between myth and reality. The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. The legend. This classic horror legend tells of a teenage babysitter tormented by ominous phone calls while home alone at night. The children are asleep upstairs, and a stranger keeps calling asking, "Have you checked on the children?" The terrified babysitter eventually contacts police, who trace the calls, only to discover they're coming from inside the house. The truth: the origins of this legend appear to be rooted in a real unsolved murder. On March 18, 1950, 13-year-old Jeanette Chrisman was babysitting in Columbia, Missouri, when she was attacked and killed by an intruder. Police later found the phone off the hook, leading investigators to believe Chrisman tried to call for help as she was being assaulted. Decades later, people noted the similarities between Chrisman's case and the babysitter and the caller story. In fact, an earlier 1946 murder of a young woman home alone in the same town, Mary Lou Jenkins, also bore resemblances. She was strangled with a telephone cord. Neither case was definitively solved, but together they likely spawned the cautionary tale of the babysitter stalked by a man already inside the house. The chilling legend has lived on in pop culture, notably in the film When a Stranger Calls, reminding audiences that the scariest threats may be closer than they appear. The Hookman Lover's Lane Terror. The legend: a young couple parked at a secluded lover's lane hear a radio bulletin about an escaped killer roaming the area, a madman with a hook for a hand. Spooked, they drive off into the night. When they arrive home, they discover a bloody hook hanging from the car door, indicating how narrowly they escaped the killer. The truth: while no killer ever used a prosthetic hook as far as records show, the Hookman legend was likely inspired by a real string of unsolved crimes. In the spring of 1946, a hooded assailant terrorized Texarkana, a city straddling the Texas-Arkansas border, in a series of attacks known as the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. The so-called Phantom Killer targeted young couples parked on lonely roads at night, mirroring the Lover's Lane scenario of the legend. In the first attack, a masked gunman assaulted a couple in a car, severely injuring them. Over the next few months, he struck several more times, killing 5 people in total, 2 women and 3 men, and gravely wounding others. Panicked residents armed themselves and avoided going out after dark. The Phantom Killer was never caught. A decade later, stories of a faceless murderer stalking parked lovers began to circulate, eventually embellished with the iconic hook hand to make the warning even more gruesome. The real Texarkana case became the stuff of legend, even inspiring the 1970s horror film The Town That Dreaded Sundown. To this day, the unsolved Lover's Lane murders lend an extra jolt of credibility to the Hookman myth. The killer in the back seat. The legend: a woman drives home alone at night, followed by a car that flashes its high beams repeatedly. Fearing the worst, she speeds away and manages to get home or reach a police station. To her shock, she learns the truth. The driver behind her was trying to warn her. He saw a shadowy figure, a killer with a knife, rising up from her back seat, and each time the would-be attacker reared up, the trailing driver flashed his lights to scare the killer into hiding. The truth. As implausible as it sounds, a real incident in 1964 may have sparked this legend. That year in New York, an escaped murderer reportedly hid in the backseat of an unsuspecting driver's car. Only he chose the wrong car. The vehicle belonged to an off-duty police detective who noticed the fugitive and shot him before any harm was done. According to later research by folklorists and crime historians, this genuine case of a killer in the backseat likely inspired the modern legend, minus the dramatic high-beam rescue. Over time, storytellers amplified the drama, adding the flashing headlights and changing the characters to craft a more suspenseful narrative. While the legend's details are fictional, the core fear it exploits, a hidden predator in one's car, is grounded in that one frightening true story from the 1960s. The Man in the White Van. The legend, stranger danger warnings often involve a creepy individual luring children with candy or toys into a nondescript vehicle, frequently a white van. The truth. Between 1970 and 1973, Dean Corll, dubbed the Candy Man, abducted and murdered at least 28 boys and young men in Houston, Texas. Corll and his teenage accomplices used the promise of candy, soda, or parties to lure victims into his van, often under the pretense of friendship. Corll's crimes shocked the nation and confirmed parents' worst fears, helping cement the white van as an ominous icon in American folklore. Tainted Halloween candy. The legend, every Halloween parents inspect their kids' trick-or-treat hauls for tampering. The fear is that a stranger might poison candy or hide razor blades in apples. The truth. In 1974, Ronald Clark O'Brien gave his son a pixie sticks laced with cyanide. The boy died, and O'Brien, who had taken out life insurance on his children, was convicted and executed. Though rare, this horrifying act added lasting fuel to the myth of tampered Halloween candy, and every year the fear resurfaces. The Bunnyman. The legend, a killer in a bunny suit haunts a Virginia bridge wielding an axe and terrorizing teenagers who dare to visit. The truth. In 1970, multiple people reported a man in a rabbit costume vandalizing property and throwing a hatchet. Though he never harmed anyone physically, the sightings were bizarre and unsettling enough to take on mythic proportions. The legend of the Bunnyman grew, centered around Colchester Overpass, now famously known as Bunnyman Bridge, the killer behind the medicine cabinet. The legend, a murderer enters a home through a bathroom mirror, exploiting a hidden tunnel or passageway. The truth. In 1987, Ruthie Mae McCoy was killed in her apartment in Chicago. Her attackers entered through the medicine cabinet via a shared maintenance crawl space. Her desperate 911 call described someone coming through the cabinet. The case partially inspired the urban horror of Candyman, where mirrors conceal otherworldly killers. The body under the bed. The legend, a couple checks into a motel and notices a foul smell. Eventually, a body is discovered hidden beneath the bed. The truth. This legend is supported by multiple confirmed cases. In 1999, a German couple in Atlantic City slept above a rotting corpse for days. Other real cases surfaced in Florida and Texas, where victims were found stuffed under beds or in frames, only discovered after complaints about the odor. Travelers now routinely check beneath hotel mattresses, just in case. El Hombre del Saco, the sackman. The legend. In Spain and Latin America, children are warned that misbehaving will summon El Hombre del Saco, the sackman, who carries them away forever. The truth. In 1910, Francisco Leona, a healer in Spain, kidnapped a young boy to extract blood and fat as part of a folk cure for tuberculosis. The child was carried in a sack and later murdered. The case, known as El Crimen de Gador, horrified the nation and inspired generations of parents to invoke the sackman legend as a grim cautionary tale. The North Pond Hermit. The legend. A shadowy figure lives in the woods of Maine, stealing food and supplies from summer cabins, but no one ever sees him. The truth. In 2013, police apprehended Christopher Knight, who had lived alone in the Maine wilderness for 27 years. He survived by committing more than 1,000 burglaries, carefully taking only what he needed. His legendary stealth gave birth to a modern myth, but the North Pond Hermit turned out to be very real. The Slave Master, internet chain letter. The legend, a serial killer lures victims via online chat rooms using the name Slave Master. The truth. In the late 1990s, John Edward Robinson used BDSM forums under the name Slave Master to find and murder women. He promised them jobs or money, then killed and stored some victims' bodies in barrels. He was caught in 2000 and is believed to be one of the first known internet serial killers. The case fueled one of the most chilling internet age legends.